my kid's name out y'all mouth, dog. Y'all can talk trash to me all day. What yada yada, death threat, Mr. Cheetah, whatever you want to say to Mr. Cheetah. Y'all can do that. Like, we all know Patrick Mahomes is great. We know that.
Tyreek Hill is doing something with this podcast of his. I mean, he's definitely taking a page out of JJ Redick's book and Draymond Green's book, because I don't think there's been a podcast that has had as many controversial takes from as many important athletes as Tyreek Hill's podcast. So far, he's had the likes of Tua on there, Jalen Waddle's been on there, and it's still a relatively young podcast. But the thing about this podcast that's so awesome is the timing of it was everything. And more recently, it seems like Tyreek Hill went back on his podcast and just said some interesting things about the Miami Dolphins' upcoming season. Now, whether this is going to rub Kansas City Chiefs fans a specific way, I'll have to leave that up to you to decide. Now, before we get to the content, I'm going to be starting a fantasy football league with some of my patrons on Patreon. If you're interested in joining, go to patreon.com/microphone. And in addition to that, if you think I talk way too much in these videos, we upload 1-minute shorts of this content onto my Instagram @TheFlightMike and onto my TikTok, Microphone NFL. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Miami Dolphins have gone all in on Tua Tagovailoa, which is kind of interesting considering the fact that this is a team that wasn't necessarily sold on Tua over this past year. We've covered it multiple times on this channel as it was going on. There were rumblings about them trying to acquire Deshaun Watson during the trade deadline last year. They had 3 first-round picks ready for the Houston Texans and were even pushing for Deshaun Watson to settle his cases in order to pull the trigger on the trade. According to Brian Flores' lawsuit against the owner of the Miami Dolphins, he alleged that there was once a time where a very highly regarded free agent prospect who happened to play the quarterback position was being pushed onto him by ownership. Brian Flores initially declined this because he wanted to find a quarterback in the draft and completely rebuild the Miami Dolphins culture from the ground up, as opposed to relying on a free agent QB that could only be there for a season or two. This quarterback was rumored to be Tom Brady, and the owner of the Miami Dolphins essentially would ambush Brian Flores with Tom Brady to take a meeting with one another and just talk things out to potentially sign Tom Brady to the Dolphins. And even that was something that Brian Flores wasn't a fan of. But it seems like the Miami Dolphins understood the value of Tua currently. I mean, you're in a situation where you could go all in on this player, even though you're not necessarily sold on him as a quarterback. You can support him with one of the most promising wide receiver cores, easily a top 5 wide receiver core on paper. Bear in mind, this team hasn't even played yet. A stable of running backs that resemble the San Francisco 49ers, but I would even say on paper, they look a little bit more intimidating. The league's most sought after left tackle prospect in Terron Armstead, arguably the best cornerback in the entire NFL, and a defense that should be able to have the capacity to surprise a lot of teams. So I don't think anyone's going to be questioning the fact that their top acquisition during the free agency period was Tyreek Hill. I mean, you could say whatever you want about the Tyreek Hill trade, but it was a trade that benefited both sides perfectly. Miami Dolphins had a plethora of assets and a lot of cap space to be able to take on a wide receiver like Tyreek Hill without really mortgaging their future. Because bear in mind, this has been a team that has been stockpiling draft capital for quite some time, ever since the Laramie Tunsil trade with the Houston Texans. So essentially, you could make the argument that this trade was made possible by the Houston Texans. But in addition to that, it's clear that the Miami Dolphins wanted to give Tua all the tools possible in order to potentially take this team to the Super Bowl. I don't think this is a team that is just targeting the playoffs this year with the additions that they've made. And ultimately, I think the comments that Tyreek Hill has been making ever since joining the Miami Dolphins has been putting a lot of pressure on them and has definitely been putting a spotlight on them. And I don't think Miami Dolphins PR is safe from this either. This all started from that very famous tweet by the Miami Dolphins Twitter page, which showed an underthrown ball by Tua to Tyreek Hill. This resulted in Tyreek Hill having to defend him multiple times, and even the Miami Dolphins Twitter page showing times where Tua was throwing the ball perfectly in stride and was throwing perfect deep passes. It resulted in this whole thing where people were completely memeing Tua, saying that he was not the right quarterback for Tyreek Hill because Tyreek Hill was going from playing with Patrick Mahomes to, well, Tua, who, with all due respect to Tua, in my opinion, I think he's shown enough to at the very minimum be an average QB, but there is definitely a potential for him to explode this season, or there's even a chance for him to become a Pro Bowler this season. At the same time, if he fails this season, the Miami Dolphins haven't necessarily been patient with him so far. Don't be surprised if the Miami Dolphins just kick him to the curb after this season, because Tom Brady will become a free agent following this season, and there's even a chance where, I don't know, maybe he plays for the Dolphins for a season as he tries to become their part-time owner, which is my own crazy theory. I don't think there's necessarily any proof to this actually happening. So ever since Tyreek Hill joined the Miami Dolphins, and bear in mind, this is the man that literally said that he was happy with the Kansas City Chiefs until he saw the amount of money that he could be paid to play for the Miami Dolphins. In Miami, of all places. It's a pretty sweet gig if you ask me.
It's tough, man, but somebody comes to you with a lot of money. It changes.
You're going from Kansas to a place with no state income tax. So financially, it was just a move that made a lot of sense for Tyreek, but it seems like ever since making the move from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Miami Dolphins, he's been trying to say that his new team is either as good or could be even better than his old team.
The offense with the Chiefs was stupid, bro. When I go out to practice each and every day, like I say, bro, I see the same exact team, bro.
Whether that's by complimenting Tua by saying, I just want people to understand that I went for 150 yards with Matt Moore as my QB versus the Minnesota Vikings. I love Matt Moore, but Tua is 10 Matt Moores, which is by far the strangest compliment I think I've ever seen in my life. Or if it was the fact that famously Tyreek Hill said that his QB is more accurate than Patrick Mahomes.
As far as accuracy-wise, I'm going with Tua all day.
So which one would you rather have? The deep ball where you got to scramble around the field to try to go find it? Or do you want that accuracy to hit you right in the bread basket on the run?
I want it to hit me right in the bread basket, just like I did in the Buffalo Bills game, and take it 70. And the rest is history.
And again, this is not a shot at anybody.
Right.
It's just stuff that had to be said.
It needed to be said.
It needed to be said.
And this is where things started to get absolutely insane. I mean, Patrick Mahomes clearly answered back to Tyreek Hill, and we've made a video on it.
I'm surprised a little, just because I feel like we love Tyreek here. We've always loved him. We still love him. I saw him out at Formula One in Miami, and everything like that. But I mean, I'm sure it had something to do with trying to get his podcast some stuff and get it rolling. But
Tyreek Hill would even say on his podcast that this would result in him getting death threats just by saying this stuff. He said, I just feel like a lot of people overreacted for no reason. They really didn't see what I said. A lot of people are just acting off of emotion. We all know Patrick Mahomes is great. We know that. But right now, I'm going into a new season with a new quarterback who's trying to head into the same direction as Patrick and do great things and lead this team to a Super Bowl championship, who is also great in my opinion. He just doesn't have the accolades of yet, but I believe in him. I mean, of course you're going to say that about your new quarterback when you clearly said that the reason why you're on this new Miami Dolphins team is because, well, they paid you more, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way business works. But ever since then, it seems like Tyreek Hill's been saying even more absurd stuff, which I haven't been privy to, primarily because, well, I've been dealing with a couple of procedures and recovery and whatnot. But ever since then, he brought Tua onto his podcast and said that they are going to be the equivalent of Dennis Rodman and Carmen Electra, and that he feels like our chemistry will get to the level of Dennis Rodman and Carmen Electra. It's going to be about 2 a.m. one night, and you're going to wake up and walk in your kitchen, and I'm going to be washing your dishes. That's how good our chemistry is going to be, which is absolutely hysterical because Tua's like, can we just not be Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman instead? Which brings us to the most recent thing that Tyreek Hill has said, which is, I don't even think it's as aggressive. I just think he's just doing his job as one of the captains of the Miami Dolphins at this point, saying that the Miami Dolphins of this year have the same weapons as the Kansas City Chiefs in the 2019 season, which would obviously end up winning a Super Bowl. Now, here's the exact quote. That 2019 offense with the Chiefs was stupid. When I go out to practice each and every day, like I said, I see the exact same team. I swear, as far explosive, as far as dynamic, we have the same exact weapons. And then he even complimented his head coach, saying when you add Mike McDaniel into calling plays, I know Andy Reid is great, but when you add McDaniel, it's crazy. The way he dials up plays and his play calling timing, I don't even know what what to say. It's just crazy. I don't want to go out and just say that the Miami Dolphins are going to suck because, well, I mean, we have to see them play first. But I do want to say that there's a lot of potential for people to dig up these old podcast comments, especially if the Miami Dolphins underperform this season. And there's a good chance that they do underperform this season. The reason why is that there are so many unknowns. How quick is Tyreek Hill going to be able to learn Mike McDaniel's offense? I don't necessarily think it's going to be very complicated. I feel like it's going to be a lot of scheme stuff, which is what Kyle Shanahan did with the San Francisco 49ers. Both of the teams are built relatively similarly. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers are all speed at the wide receiver position, and they use an RBC zone running scheme, which seems like what Mike McDaniel is going for this year because they have Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Sony Michel, and Myles Gaskin at the halfback position. You have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who are known for how fast they are as wide receivers, and you have Tua Tagovailoa, who could be protected by a lot of play action schemes. But there's a lot of things out there. How good of a coach is Mike McDaniel going to be in year one? How long is it going to take for the offense to start clicking? Is it going to be right away? Is it going to take a little bit? There are a lot of new pieces on this team as well. How long does that take for it to work itself out? I'm not trying to be pessimistic. It's just I've seen so many instances of these remarkable teams being built up like right away within one offseason, one of the star players going out and saying how great this team is going to be, and then ultimately it just not working out. And I hope that isn't the case with the Miami Dolphins, but I am saying that there is the potential for that to happen. There's a lot of things that have to go right for this team to emerge as the team to beat in the AFC East. Bear in mind, they're going up against the Buffalo Bills, and the New England Patriots seem to be on their way up in terms of their rebuild. The New York Jets had a nice little offseason of their own. And I think outside of the Buffalo Bills, this entire division is going to be a gigantic toss-up, and they're going to be competing for the wild card essentially. But it's football, that's the reason games are played, so let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. I felt like I owed you guys a bit of an update ever since the last time I covered this in a video. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.